Day, and I've got a special guest today. Um, my friend, my brother, Jimmie Ligon, is here, and let me tell you something. On my Derrick Day multimedia page, that's how I discovered this cat, and somebody who has such a powerful, resonant voice about what he believes and what he doesn't believe, and how he breaks it all down with just pinpoint logic and reason. And then I also have to give him a shout out because he's an ex-military guy. You see the Air Force banner behind him. I'm ex-Navy, but I ain't holding that against you, Jimmy. So
It's all
anyway,
good.
without any further ado, Jimmy, go ahead and tell us about yourself, and tell us what's on your mind today.
Sure. Well, I'm almost 55. Be 55 next month.
Youngster.
Um, yep. And I'm originally from Norfolk, Virginia. So Norfolk, the naval amphibious base and naval air stations there. And so props to you and the Navy again.
All right.
But mom and dad were
I
both in
used
the
to live in
military.
Virginia Beach, by the way.
Did you? Yeah, we're
Yeah.
originally from Norfolk. Um, my mom and dad were both in the Air Force as well. Then I joined after high school, or whatever. I was in delayed enlistment for a year. Lived all over, just like most military brats. Lived in Europe for 4 years, all over the United States. Um, I grew up going to church because my dad told us when we were kids when we were Christians or whatever.
Mhm.
And now none of us are. So it just turns out to be that way. It's like, um, what's funny is not all at once, but when I was a child, of course, you read the Bible and you read Bible verses, passages here and there, go to Sunday school or whatever.
Mhm.
And so throughout my childhood, I probably read the Bible once, probably more than once, because we were so into it. But what solidified, because I started having questions when I got older,
Yeah.
and they were pretty much internal. It was kind of an internal struggle with me because I wasn't living near my parents. So I was just always kind of conflicted. It's like, to be honest with you, when I first got to be an adult, living my own, I didn't go to church simply because it was kind of that rebellious thing where I don't have to go if I don't want to now because I'm an adult. I can do whatever I want to.
Right.
But then it evolved into what's going on here anyway. So fast forward about a decade or so, I'm in my 30s, mid 30s, late 30s, and I take it upon myself to read that book cover to cover,
Okay.
Old and New Testament. And before I got through it, I was like, oh, I get it now. This is all BS because it didn't make any sense to me. And I was like, that's not true. That's not true. Well, that's certain that never happened. That's impossible. So I got through it. I'm like, okay, it's just like every other religion out there, ancient or, you know, older folks who didn't know the difference, who didn't even understand how to cook meat properly, wrote this book. So there's a lot of other things they didn't understand because somebody said this. I think it was either Sam Harris or some other guy said it seems to be that God is the ever receding pocket of ignorance. So whenever you find out how something actually works, you can't say God did it at that point because we
Right.
know exactly how it works. Now we don't know everything, but that's the beauty of being in this universe. And there's a certain beauty in not knowing everything, and there's
Right.
a certain beauty in going through the process of learning actually how things work in reality. Because I have a problem with people say that's my truth. I said, well,
Yeah.
okay, I understand that, but if it's just your truth, it's not really true. It's just what you think. So it's not really a truth. You're using that word to try to make it seem like it is what it isn't. But I don't care what nobody says. Instead of me having beliefs outside of my moral beliefs, is like I treat people with kindness is the first thing I do. Um, I believe there's a certain way you should carry yourself. I'm the nicest guy ever. I say hi to everybody, but I have very strong opinions. So people who don't know me, they think I'm mean, but I'm not. I'm the nicest guy ever. I just don't tolerate bullshit.
Yep.
It's
I
just
can
that
dig it.
simple. It's just that simple. So, I mean, I'm straight up with people. I tell people all the time, like, I got to put this out there first before we go any further. When I first got into and I understood what being an atheist is, And by the way, I'm with you on that atheism thing. That there's no such thing. But anyway,
You
when I
won't
first,
believe how much shit I took over that.
I don't care. People can. You are 100% correct. There's no ism.
Right.
There's no dogma. There's nothing you have to do. There's no book. There's nothing. Ism is restrained to those things that have a belief
Yeah,
system.
it's a method. It's a structure.
Yeah, exactly. And atheist. Because here's the thing: to be an atheist, all you have to do is not believe in deities. Period. And believe this or not, people out there are people who are atheists who think the world is flat. Seriously. They
it's a true
exist.
story.
There are atheists out there who believe in conspiracy theories. I don't do any of that. I don't do no nonsense. No conspiracy theories, no astrology, no superstitions, none of that. I just go by what, like, you don't have to argue that cell phones work, that the internet works, that
Mhm.
your radio works, that your
Right.
CD player works, that you
Yep.
have a couch, that there's a floor, that you can't fly without, you know, the help of
Mechanical assistance.
planes or helicopters or
Yep.
any kind of other kind of instrument like that.
Yep.
There are certain things that are just, you don't have to argue. And to me, and I don't know if this is bad for me to say, but this is how I feel. I really don't associate or talk to people who literally believe the earth is flat, because that is objectively not true. That's not something that's up for debate. That's something you should have learned in 6th or 7th grade science class at
Right.
the latest. It's like you didn't pay attention. Like, I I really hate to bring this guy up, but if it wasn't for that, I would give him more benefit of the doubt. But Kyrie Irving needs to he needs to stop. To me, he's a pseudo intellectual, because he's just, he goes off on these tangents about Israelites and stuff, and I'm like going, so you want to be you just want to be you want to say that black people are the first people to invent this bullshit? Okay, fine, but it's still bullshit no matter who
Right.
invented it.
And that's the point. What I was making about folks like Kyrie. I say all of this it'll make sense if God makes sense. If there is a God, and you want to say, like, okay, who are the first people or who are the chosen people? Because you got in the Bible, you have a clear pecking order,
Right,
right?
right.
Of people who have favor with God. So if there is a God, then that makes a difference. But if there is no God, who cares?
Yeah,
And and
if
that's
there
my point.
yeah, if there is no God, then all those arguments are moot. And as
Yep.
far as we know, there is no God. Now, if there is an extra terrestrial deity type being that we have no knowledge of, then we have no knowledge of it, and it doesn't make a difference anyway. And
Right.
here's the thing: this is something that recently popped up in my head, because I do a lot of thinking, and this may sound crazy, but I also talk to myself a lot, have conversations with myself to get my
Smart people
thoughts
do.
straight. Yeah,
Smart people
I get
do.
my thoughts straight a lot, because I work from home, so I don't have to go outside. And I'm usually here all day by myself. But anyway, I was thinking, the description of God that I get from Christians and certain Muslims and people who are actually practicing Jewish folks, because there's a lot of Jewish people who are atheists. And a lot of people aren't privy to that, but there's a lot of Jewish people who don't believe. Like Lewis Black, for instance, say, well, that's our book, and we know that that book is bullshit. So
Right.
I get it, but what was I going to say? Oh yeah, so they describe God as the Alpha and the Omega. He knows
Hmm.
everything that's happened, and he knows everything that's going to happen. So what does that suggest to you? To me, that suggests that this entity, if it did exist, would exist outside of time. And if that's true, then it doesn't make a difference to us.
Right.
Him being, even if he's real, he has no effect on us,
Right.
because he already knows it's going to happen anyway. So he doesn't intervene at all, because it's already passed for him.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense at that level either. I'm like, I understand people want to feel comfortable about what's going to happen when you die and all this kind of stuff, but how I came to grips with that, I just remembered or tried to remember what it was like before I got here, and guess what? People people don't understand. You can't. It's hard to grasp you not existing, and it's
Yeah.
not terrible because you're not even going to know you're dead.
Right.
You're not even going to know, as far as we know, right?
Yep.
Now, if there's something that helps that happens afterwards, it's another way I look at it. Sure, fine. I'll find out then. I'm not going to be worried about death while I'm alive. I got to be worried about being alive first. I got to learn how to do this shit right. I haven't figured out how
Right.
to do this shit right. I mean, I'm doing my best. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yep.
But I got to figure out how to be here first and be present. So faith doesn't work for me because I need more than faith because can, it's like, can you have faith in things for the wrong reason? Yes.
Yeah.
Can you, I mean, even in people, can you have faith in people who
Well, let me say this. Let me jump in here because I
sure,
want to say this about that because like people say, well, everybody has faith, right? And the Bible says that every man is given the measure of faith, right? But this is what I learned. Okay, so faith is the evidence of things unseen and the substance of things not seen, the evidence of things hoped for, according to that book.
right,
But right, when knowledge comes when you know that you know that this exists, you move from faith to fact, right? You move from hypothesis to theory. You move from not knowing to knowing, and so this whole thing is I really believe that we are now in an era where we know things. We're able to put our finger on things and say, okay, I know that this is true because it has been hypothesized, it has been tested, it's been prototyped, it's been modeled, and it's been exercised, right?
right,
So I say this is what I always say, that I don't have faith in anything. I don't even have faith in people. What I do have is confidence in that which is tangible, measurable, and repeatable. Because if it's not tangible, if I can't see, I can't perceive it. So somebody says, "Well, what about black holes?" You've never seen a black hole, and I said, "You're absolutely right. I've never seen a black hole. However, I know that there are devices and technology that is able to monitor a black hole. So I don't have to rely on my senses when there are sensors, right? So that's
right,
one thing. The second thing is that we can put numbers into a model based on what we expect a black hole to do. And when we observe it in real life, we see that our numbers hold up. So that makes it's all tangible. But then you segue into the measurable. Okay, now we can say we know how far a black hole is away from us. We know what the dimensions of the black hole are. We know approximately what the level of gravity is that's involved based on the influence that it has on bodies around it. So it's measurable, right? And then it's repeatable. There are black holes all over the universe, and we're discovering new ones just about daily, right? So all these things say lead me to a conclusion that yes, black holes do exist, even though I've never actually put my hands on one.
yeah,
And so likewise with people, again, tangible. I get to see this person, and even though I haven't seen you in real life, I can see you on the screen. I see you in Facebook. I see
right,
the posts that you make, right?
right,
So I have a means of perceiving you with
mm,
my senses, and because we're at a distance, I have sensors,
right,
that are able to perceive you. You're measurable. You just told me, where you came from, how long you've been, how old you are, and all of that. So you've
right.
given some dimensions of yourself. And because this isn't the first time I've talked to you online, I know
Nope.
that you're repeatable.
Yep, definitely.
You
Yep,
see, so it holds up. It holds up with people as well.
right.
So that's my little interjection
Yeah,
there.
I totally agree with you. It's like I tell people that I don't necessarily believe in things, but I observe reality around me,
Mhm.
and I just incorporate that into my being. It's like I don't need to believe in something that isn't real. I mean, it's like it just seems such a waste of time to me. It's like why add stuff? I mean, the truth, reality is entertaining enough. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And so I don't need to add all this other stuff like supernatural. There's
Yeah.
no such thing because if you can observe it and if it exists physically in the universe, then it's not supernatural. It's kind
Yeah.
of like what I said earlier about God being, if that is really the case, then he would exist outside of time. Supernatural would exist outside of the universe, so it doesn't pertain to us in the first place. So why bother with it?
Yeah.
It's like people don't understand, excuse me, are not um understanding the language that we've already established for ourselves. And in saying those things, they're actually contradicting themselves because to say something is supernatural, how would you have knowledge of it? Your brain wouldn't even be able to comprehend that because your brain exists within a natural state
Yeah.
inside of the universe. So how would you even know about anything supernatural? That makes no sense. Now, if someone goes, somebody, this is a real popular question, and I think this is hilarious because it doesn't work in their favor either. But they'll go, well, what if we find out one day that there is a deity out there that does exist? I'm like, well, then fine, there's a deity that exists, but you still have to go through the humongous task of explaining to me why I need to worship it.
Right.
Or what does it benefit us? What does this deity benefit? How does this benefit? Excuse me. How does this deity benefit humanity in
Yep.
general? So there's things that go on top of that. Not just proving that some entity exists, but then you have to put that entity in its proper place in the
Right.
universe,
Why?
and then go
Why?
from there.
Like you said, why worship? And you know what? One of the things that the litmus test that I apply to everything is what they call ROI in business, return on
Return on
investment.
investment. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So if I see no return on investment, then that means that's someplace for me not to invest. Right.
Right.
If I read the prospectus, right, and I understand the terms, and I
Right.
say, okay, these terms don't make sense. I don't see any net benefit to this. So
Right.
when I talk about return on investment, what do we have? We have time, we have talent, we have treasure, right?
Right.
Time is the one thing that it's the unifying theme for humanity because we all have the same 86,400 seconds every day, right? That's the measure. We all have the same terra firma, the same atmosphere, all of the same water, all of that's common, right? So if I'm going to invest my time, I want to make sure that I'm getting something out of my time because if I say, "Hey Jimmy, can I borrow that shirt that you're wearing?" And you say, "Yeah, Derrick, here you go. You take it off, you give it to me, right?" I can
Right.
give you that shirt back. Or if I say, "Hey Jimmy, can I borrow $20?" I borrow $20 from you, I give it back, right? You can
Right.
give that back. But this time, 1 second of your time, I can never give back to you, right?
Right.
So
Right.
that means that I have to maximize every second that I have with you, right?
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
that's time.
Yeah.
Talent, right? I have abilities, I have gifts, I have capabilities, I have potential, and so if as I'm doing these things, as I'm using them, as I'm employing and deploying them for whatever different thing, I want to make sure that as I do this, that they are being effective, that they're being effectively used, that they're
Correct.
being maximized in the realm that I'm using them for, right?
Correct. Yep.
And then finally treasure. I've got money, I've got stocks, I've got gold, I've got real estate, I have intellectual capital, all of these things. So how am I using these things to better my life or to advance or to push the envelope for humanity? and
Right.
and and in all three of these key tests, religion and gods fail.
Yes. Humongously,
Yep.
tremendously fail. Yes, across the board. Um, I tell people all the time. People say, I I know you see that I give Christianity a hard time, but first of all, I know that that religion inside and out because that's what I studied as a child
Yeah,
and grew up.
exactly.
So I know a lot about Christianity, and I know about a little bit about Judaism too. Because, well, if you're a Christian and you hate Jews, you're a weirdo. Because that first part of our Bible, that Old Testament, that's Jewish
Yeah.
scripture, pal. So when I hear, excuse me, when I hear uh poor little Kanye West talking about Jewish people, like, you keep talking about Jesus Christ, brother. If that was real and he
Mhm.
came back, he's not gonna be Christian, right? He's gonna be Jewish, right?
Right. Yep.
It's like people don't understand that, and I don't get it. How can you be? I mean, if you're gonna be a Christian, at least understand your religion,
Yep.
understand where it originally came from, and understand that the version of that we have now was co-opted by the Europeans, and more specifically the Catholics, changed everything to fit their agenda and what they were trying to get accomplished. But Christianity, Judaism, Islam,
Mhm.
all Middle Eastern religions, every last one of them originated in the Middle East. If
Yep.
you
And
can
they're
go to
they're
the Middle
all they're all three forks of the same tree.
Right, the Abrahamic religions, correct. They're all cousins. And when I tell people that, they don't understand it. I go tell you, I say, you know what? So this is going to freak you out, Billy Bob. But Muslims pray to the same God you do. They go, no, they pray to Allah. I'm saying, no, Allah is Arabic for God. It's not
Yep.
his name. It's a
That's not
word.
his name.
It's a word that just means God.
Yep.
And Jews, Christians, Islam all pray to the same dude. What they disagree on is the methodology and the theology behind who who is or isn't the Messiah, who is or who isn't the prophet, what you're supposed to be doing with your life. That's what they disagree on. They don't
And
disagree that,
also who are the chosen people?
yeah, the chosen people too, yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So they don't disagree that there's a God. They just think that they're the ones. That's the main ones.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
Yep.
it's all about just it's so funny because it's so obviously ridiculous. Now, I'll be honest. There are a lot of religions out there that are pretty much harmless, like Jainism.
Mhm. Yep.
It doesn't hurt nobody. I mean, they believe in being so values of life that they feel that they have to make sure they don't step on an ant.
Yep.
You know, they go that far, and that's okay because they're not hurting anybody. So if you want to do something that's actually not going to hurt anybody, knock your socks off, bro. You know what I'm saying? I won't believe it with you, but you know what? I'll be able to love you because you're taking the most humanitarian stance,
Mhm.
and at least what you're going to do is not try to impede on anybody else's experience in life.
So let me jump in here because like that you said a mouthful there, because that's my problem with religion in general, is that the religious zealots feel the need to inject their beliefs into every aspect of their lives. And it isn't enough that for them to believe, but they also demand that either you believe or that you give a wide berth to what they believe, right? So my thing is, okay, you want to believe, listen, you want to believe in the great sky wizard and his zombie son, hey, no problem. More power to you. But that has no bearing on my life.
Exactly.
And you have no right to make it impact my life or influence my life in any way. So
Correct.
it's like basically is I always say that basically, religion is like, is like a person's private parts. It's best kept in your pants. If
Yeah,
you
exactly.
in your pants, hey, hey, we know you got some, we know you packing, but hey,
Yeah,
we don't all need to know.
I don't need you to wave it in my face.
Exactly.
That's that. That is, you know what, brother? Because I'm the most loving person ever. Let me tell you. And for those of you who don't know, I'm in a relationship with a woman who's Catholic. That would surprise a lot of you. But I do believe in mutual respect, and I do believe in letting people, as long as they're not impeding on anybody else's experience in life in a negative way, let them figure it out for themselves. You know what I'm saying? So
Yep.
she's not hurting me. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't be with her for 8 years if there was a problem. As a matter of fact, we've never, ever, ever, ever had an argument or disagreement about me being atheist and me being her being Catholic. You know what's so great about that, Derrick?
What's up?
When we excuse me, I'm sorry everybody, I'm getting over a cold, so you have to excuse me. Um, we were when we first started talking before we became a couple. She said, "I've never met anybody who said," because she's a small country girl, grew up on a farm. Her mom and dad are poor farmers and stuff like that. But she, up here in Northwest Missouri, excuse me, she never met anybody who told her they were an atheist before she met me. And you know what? When I told her that, instead of her feeling offended or feeling weird about it, she goes, "What is that? Can you explain to me what that is?" I said, "Oh, sure." So I just told her, I said, "First of all, atheist only means that you don't believe in deities. That's it."
Right.
She goes, "Oh, okay, so you guys don't have this and that and the other." And she asked me a bunch of questions. I answered everything. She goes, "Oh, okay, so it just means you don't believe in God." Then I said, "If you just short and long of it, yeah. Long story short, we just don't believe in deities. Period." She goes, "Okay, that makes sense." And I go, she goes, "How do you feel about people who do?" I said, "Well, I don't necessarily have any issues with people who do, but I have issue with those who do, who try to condemn me because I don't." And then I'm saying, "Okay, fine. You want me to believe in pick one for me then. Do you want that responsibility?" I said, and the easy answer is pick the one I like. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's like, dude, it's even people who are Christians. And this is another thing I want to bring up. And I want to I want to thank you publicly right now for allowing me to have this, having the stage or
Yeah.
inviting me on your show. I really
Oh
appreciate
man,
it
no
because
problem.
I really respect you. You're a nice guy. You're a sweetheart. But I have to say, I know they like to say there's three main religions: Christian, Islam, and Judaism.
Hmm.
But there's more religions inside of those. Those are just umbrellas.
Right.
Because I'm sorry, but Seventh Day Adventists and Presbyterians are not the same.
Right. That's true.
Presbyterians and evangelicals are really not the same. And then you get into Southern Baptists and all these temples of the Holy Christ of the living
Yeah.
Jesus
There
and
are only 42,000 Christian denominations.
exactly. And to me, you call them denominations, they're different religions. They worship the same dude.
Yeah.
But if you want to break it down technically, they're different religions. Yeah, Flying Man Disciple put up J.W. Mormon. I was actually married to a woman who was a Jehovah's Witness. That was the last time I ever do that. But she was crazy. But anyway, um, you got the Church of Latter Day Saints, and Church of Jesus Christ and Latter Day Saints, which are the Mormons.
Yep.
Um, Kooky. But I'll be honest with you, people give Scientology a bad time, deservedly so.
Yep.
But to me, they're no worse than every other religion like that. They're
Yep.
no worse than Christianity or Judaism or Islam or the Jehovah's Witnesses or anyone else. To me, they're all equally. I don't want
Fucked
to.
up.
Yeah, they're fucked up. I don't want to. And I want people to understand something. I'm not attacking people individually, which should be obvious because I'm dating a woman who's Catholic. I
Yeah.
have a problem with the idea of religion, period.
Right.
Because to me, the most important thing in life is individual thought. And that which retards individual thought is not useful to me
Come on, man.
in any form, any fashion. I am not a fan of people because my dad used to always tell me, and I never got it till I was older because that's the way it goes. When you get older, you learn and you figure out stuff. He used to always tell me, think for yourself.
Yep.
Use your head for more than a hat rack, my dad used to say.
Yep. My
Literally,
grandfather used to say that too.
use
Yeah.
your head for more than a hat rack. And I'm like, okay. And so I finally understood that. And once I got into the habit of thinking, I'm addicted to it. I'm addicted to when I hear something and don't take it for face value because I'm sure you can relate to this, Derrick. You hear something and on the face of it, it sounds like it's right. But when you think about it for a few minutes, you go, wait a minute, that's not right. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And a lot of things can be figured out if you just sit and think for a few minutes.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, you know what? It's hard to get stuff over on me because I literally practice that every day and I try to get better at it every day. I figure out stuff all the time. Like I used to be the kind of atheist when I was new. Lord, it's ridiculous. But I used to be so attacking, just attacking, right? Because that's when you get involved with something new, you jump in with both feet, and
Mhm.
you get overzealous, and sometimes you get a little bit ahead of yourself. So every time somebody would come out and say something about, Jesus, right? I mean, you're blah 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 blah. And that's not necessarily true, because I'll be honest with you. Even though Steve Harvey has said some things in the past that I totally disagree with, and the fact that he's a Christian and all this stuff, he's actually not a bad guy, and he's
Oh,
actually
he used to be a
he's
nice guy. Yeah.
he's super funny. And you know what? The practical advice he gives to young men is useful
Yep.
outside of the political. Outside of the religious and the
Yep.
Christian.
Yep.
Like even as simple. Excuse me, jeez. As simple as um he gave tips on how people who desire to be a person who wears a suit most of the time.
Mhm.
He gave practical, um, inexpensive way to get into the game of wearing suits, and I thought it was brilliant because the way he put it together. You get this color, this color, this color, this color suit. You get this color, this color, this color, and this color shoes, and then you get you some ties, and you can mix and match.
Yep.
And I was like, I never even thought of that. I said, I'm not a person that's into that, but because I would never wear suits every day. Because first of all, I work from home, and number two, what I'm saying, it's so it's so it's so far between when I wear suits. So I don't. That's not a priority for me. But I thought that information he gave to everyone, I was like, man, that's brilliant. You know what I'm saying? It's very simple, but it's brilliant at the same time. And then he gives ideas about how to um better yourself in certain areas, practical ways, concentrate on what you want to do, what you want to do in life, and practice that and get good at that. Although I disagree with him on the sleep thing. But because I think just like diet and everything else, depends
Mhm.
on who you are and everything else like that.
Yep.
Some people can get by with 5 hours of sleep a day. Some people will be destroyed if they don't get 7 or 8 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's all particular to each particular person. Okay. I thought that's why I don't like these fad diets. You know, you're evil for eating meat. No, you just don't like meat. Leave me alone. Less than 5% of the population of humanity doesn't eat meat, so stop it. So, and that's a fact. So, I just look at that as far as when people are giving out the advice and stuff like that. Like I was talking about Steve, the stuff that he gives out that applies to everyone is the stuff that I appreciate.
Yep.
Everyone who wants to wear a suit can go and get 4 inexpensive suits that are different colors, get 4 decent, nice pairs of shoes that aren't too expensive, different colored shoes, get different ties, and in the shirts, get the 4 basic shirts you should have, and everybody
Yep.
can do that and mix match if you want to. That doesn't apply to just one particular type of person. So
And
that
what
type
you,
of advice. Oh, go ahead. I'm
I'm,
sorry.
I'm I'm good with people that are dispensing practical advice, and I actually have some pastor friends,
Uh
right?
huh.
Is I say this kind of jokingly, but not jokingly. There are like 5 friends that I have that are pastors that I still listen to them. I like how they preach,
Oh, really?
right? And even though I have no use for God in my life, I have no use for religion, but what how they present it to
Mm-hmm.
me is very compelling. And this has to do. I have to admit that in the case of these 5 individuals, a lot of it has to do with how I view them as friends,
Uh
and
huh.
not so much as how I view them as preachers.
Right.
So, but the thing that I love about all 5 of them is that the vast majority of them do this. One is that there has to be that whatever they say has to be practical. That there has to be some usable metric
Right.
that can be applied to what they say.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing is that it's not dogmatic. In other words, it's not like and the Lord said. It's not that.
Oh,
It's
because I hate. I just real quick. I hate that.
yeah.
But anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry. I just
No, no,
hate
no.
that.
Go ahead, man.
No, I'm just gonna say the I'm saying the theatrics. Like
Yeah.
when I mentioned to you when I had to go to church when I was younger,
Uh,
I remember specifically. I'm like 4, 5, 6 years old, going down to the church on the corner of the street where my grandmother lived, right,
yeah.
and witnessing these older folks getting the Holy Ghost in them. And at that young of age going, wait a minute, this is kind of silly. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I'm 5 years old looking at this going, but then I'm thinking to myself, oh, maybe I'll understand when I get older. But then I get older and realize, no, that was silly.
No, it was silly, and it's funny. I'll finish this thought, and then
Sure,
I
sure.
want to change gears to this
Okay, sure, no
because
problem.
no, but basically the advice that they're giving is, or what they're saying is not thou thus saith the Lord or anything like that. It's
Right.
more like, have you considered this? And I appreciate that perspective because that's the way that I approach my atheist thinking. I'm not trying to get anybody to think what I think or believe what I believe. All I'm doing is I'm putting this out here for your consideration. Now, I may say it in a very abrupt kind of way, but it's there for you to consider. But I have to say this because speaking of Norfolk, right?
Yeah.
I remember when I thought, because I spent 30 years in ministry, 30 years,
That's right.
30,
Yeah, you were. Yeah, you did
yeah,
that. Yeah.
30 long wasted years. No,
I don't know if they're wasted, but yeah,
yeah,
I get you.
there's no waste because there's some things that I figured out because of it. But I remember when I first got the call to preach, and a friend of mine said, "Man, you want to come to church with me?" And you would probably know this church from being from Norfolk because it was up on Little Creek. I'm not going to give the cross street because I don't want to give it out. But anyway, the pastor was very flamboyant, and he had on a lime green suit
Oh
and a
Lord.
and a jerry curl.
Oh goodness. This must have been
And,
in the
and,
80s.
and bro got up there and God said, and he was hooping and
Wow.
sweating. Jerry curl juice was going everywhere, and he had to pull off the jacket to his suit, and he had on his this lime green shirt with some dark green suspenders, and he's up there and he's just strutting and all that. And I'm like, I said, okay, God, if this is what you want me to do, you know, I'm not your guy.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, look, I can't do that, bro.
I was like, no, no, no,
Hey,
no.
real quick, you bring up Norfolk. Um, how long were you in Norfolk, Virginia?
Oh man, I was from 1982 to I moved out to Virginia Beach in 80 86.
Okay. You ever heard of Evelyn T. Butts?
Yep,
That's my grandmother.
no shit.
My maternal grandmother. Yep. In the book that was written by her, by
Yeah.
Charlene Ligon, that's my mom.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I come from a family of strong women.
Yeah, no kidding, man.
Yeah. So yeah, and you know she's got a street named after her now, right?
Yeah, yep, yep, yep.
Yeah. So, but I just wanted to throw that out there since you've been in Norfolk. I figured you would know who my grandmother is. So
Oh man, wow.
nice. Small world,
Okay.
huh?
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I
Yeah.
still I still have roots back in Norfolk. I was a talk show host on WNIS
Hmm.
in the AM talk radio station, and I was there for 4 years, and then I also was a columnist with the New Journal and Guide, which is the African American newspaper there,
Right.
published by Brenda Andrews, and so from there I actually got a syndication deal. I was my columns were out in a broader audience, and then from there I also met people. I still have a lot of friends: Barbara Sierra, Kurt Williams. They're all good friends of mine. Alvita Ewell. They're all of the broadcast giants in the area. They're all good friends of mine.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Very nice. Yeah, man. I just wanted to throw that out there, and I find it interesting because you say you still have friends that are actively within Christianity or
Yep.
whatever.
Yep.
One of my best buddies, his name is Wes. I don't want to give out his last name, but he lives down in Kansas City, and he's a Christian man. But dude, he's one of my best friends because he's such a sweet guy,
Yep.
and he accepts me for who I am, and I accept him for who he is.
Yep.
And we have a lot. We have similar interests. Like we're only a month apart in age. He's only a month older than me. So we're really, we really connect, and we have a lot of things in common. We both love hip hop. We both. I mean, I'm talking 80s, 90s hip hop, and we
Right.
make beats and stuff like that. We both have that kind of history,
Yeah.
and that's how we met. And so, his religiosity is not a problem for me, and me being an atheist, I almost said it.
Yeah.
Me being an atheist is not a problem for him because we like each other.
Yeah. And
So
that's the way it is with me and my friends. I mean,
right,
they know where I am, but they
right,
don't try to change my mind. They don't ask,
right,
well,
exactly.
how did you come to that? How did you come to that? They don't ask me that. They're just like, dog, you know, no matter what, you my dude. You my dude.
Me and Wes tell each other frequently when we talk that we love each other. I love you, brother, and you take
Yep.
care. Blah, blah. Because to me, the first part of understanding is accepting people for who they are, and
It
moving
is.
beyond that and trying to come and just exist together. Because you can do that.
Yep.
You can. I can be friends with the person who's a Muslim. Easy. It's not hard to
Yep.
do. As long as
Yep.
they're not breaking the law or killing people, I can be your friend. I don't care what you believe in.
Listen,
Because there's
I got Muslim friends. I got Hindu friends. I mean, I'm in IT, so the
okay, yeah,
vast
that's right.
majority of my colleagues are Hindu. You know,
Okay.
and we're cool. We get along, and I mean, and this is the other thing too. I really believe that a lot of humanity's problems could be solved over a meal. Because if you actually sit down and break bread with somebody
Mhm.
and talk to them like they're a human being,
Yes.
listen to what they're saying, listen to their stories, listen to their cultural influences, you'll find that you have more in common with people than you have differences. And it doesn't matter what the religion is, what the race is, what the ethnicity is, what the culture is. That's just humanity. But
Right.
the thing is that this is part of another part of my beef with religion, is
Mhm.
that religion teaches us to ignore basic humanity. In other words, if they're a Hindu, they're like, I'm speaking from the perspective of a Christian. But if
Okay.
you're a Hindu, you're a heathen. If you're Muslim, you're a heathen. If you're a Buddhist, you're a heathen. If you're Jain, you're a heathen. If you're a Scientologist, you're a heathen. Heathen. Right?
Right.
And then it's like, depending on what denomination you are, different branches of Christianity are lesser heathens, right?
It's
Well,
ridiculous.
they're okay. They might go to heaven, but they'll be in the ghetto of heaven.
Oh my God! I just want to laugh when I hear that. Like, dude, can you guys be more tribal? Really? Can you just be more tribal? It's ridiculous. I think it's easy for me to be an individual thinker and a free thinker and an atheist because I've never been a fan of groupthink.
Yeah.
I think individually people are highly intelligent, but we are still ridiculously stupid when you put us in a group. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Depending on the group, of course. But you know what I'm saying.
Well, groupthink comes when people get lazy about intellectualism, right? That when you say, okay, I really don't want to think about that, so I'm going to abdicate, that area of thought to some higher consciousness, or what they
Eh,
think is a higher
wrong answer.
consciousness.
Right,
And
exactly.
that's where groupthink kicks in, because you'll
Mhm.
say, okay, like for example, abortion. I like to pick on abortion because, if you look at the Bible nowhere says that it's opposed to abortion, but the God of the Bible really, really likes abortion. I mean, he absolutely gets off on it.
Well,
And
does he get off on killing babies after they've been born?
not just after they've been born, but he talks about go and rip the women up with child.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember that. Yep, yep,
and
yep, yep.
and and I don't care where you're from. That's an abortion. So my
A
thing is,
violent one, but
it's a
nonetheless.
very violent one. I mean, it's
Yeah.
like basically where both mother and child don't survive. So, but the thing is, okay, so everybody has this thing about abortion, but when you point out to a Christian that, hey, this is what your Bible says, this is what it says. It doesn't say, to be pro-choice or pro-life, rather. It doesn't tell you anything about that.
Mhm.
There are specific instructions that, hey, go rip up the woman with children, go dash the babies on the rocks.
Ugh.
And
Yeah,
then
yeah, yeah.
in Numbers 5, you got the abortion potion, right? That if the woman has been unfaithful, that you give them this potion and they have a spontaneous miscarriage. Bro, that's an abortion. But here's the thing, that when you show this to people, they basically what they're saying is they'll tell you, well, no, that's not what it says at all. You're taking it out of context. What they're saying is, I don't want to think about this individually, and I don't want to actually give it any thought, because the possibility exists that you might be right. So rather than give you your props and say, hey, okay, I'll read this for myself, they're like, no, groupthink. That no, I'm pro life, right down the
That
line.
that reminds me. By the way, when it comes to abortion, I don't have a uterus. I don't have an opinion. But anyway,
Yeah,
um, what you was talking about, people cherry picking the Bible or not wanting to come to grips with what's actually in there and talking about it, they just let it float off. It's like, it reminds me of that one guy, and I can't think of his name to save my life, but he was some religious figure, younger guy, like maybe in his 30s or something, saying like, if it said in the Bible that 2 + 2 is 5, I would just believe that. I'm
yeah,
like, how can you blindly believe something that you know? Not, you don't think, you don't have an idea, but you know that 1, 2, 3, 4. It's not 1, 2, 3, 5.
right.
That kind of thinking, I think, is bad, and that's the type of stuff that I think about when people blindly believe in something.
Yeah,
Blindly, it's like, how can you do anything blindly? You have to go in with some knowledge and some forethought and um some self evaluating
yeah,
idea about what's going on around you. It's like, how can you sit there and just think and just let stuff happen and not think about what's actually going on?
yeah,
It's like, if we did that as people, if everyone did that, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now, because we wouldn't have the internet, we wouldn't have computers, we wouldn't have, streaming services now, which I think TV is way better than it used to be, because I can watch when I want, what I want, when I
mhm,
want. But I mean, progress would not exist if we didn't push ourselves and challenge ourselves to go beyond what has been told to us is correct, when that's not necessarily true.
yep. I mean, that's the thing. You have to push the envelope.
Yes.
I really believe, and I'm a lifelong martial artist, and the two greatest senseis or sifus that I've had,
Hmm.
they both had a common thread, and that was that training must be an imbalanced activity by design.
Right.
It could never be balanced or predictable, because the moment it becomes that, it becomes ritual, right?
Yes, because yes, yeah, exactly, exactly.
So we would go both of these guys had all kinds of drills, exercises, that took you beyond ordinary forms and defenses and things like that. They were like trying to shake you up. And then one guy who was he was my trainer for a while, and he's an ex-Navy SEAL, and his philosophy was, he said, when you're working out, your body shouldn't know the difference as to whether you are in the gym or whether you're getting chased by a tiger.
I got you.
that
Got
that was his philosophy. He said,
you.
like,
Right.
your body should always, when you're working out, when you're training, you should be specifically in fight or flight mode,
Right.
and your body should be unbalanced and ready to take on an unexpected threat. So the thing about this is that religion takes away that imbalance, and it tries to make sense out of things that don't make sense, and tries to make things level that shouldn't be level. And so what happens is that, I've said this too, that intellectual dishonesty is the precursor of intellectual laziness.
Yes.
And so what happens is that, people become intellectually dishonest. In other words, when facts are presented to them, they either try to straw man or red herring away from the fact, and then that leads to intellectual laziness, because you're saying, okay, I'm going to rely on a default. I'm going to go back to this. In other words, like in Wing Chun Kung Fu, you have the basic form is called the Sil Lim Dao, and the Sil Lim Dao it's a very simple form to follow. But the thing is that if you're in a fight and you think that you're going to fall back to Sil Lim Dao, you're going to get your ass kicked. I don't care how well you know it.
Right.
The thing is, you have to be in order to push the envelope. You have to be stretched. You have to be pushed. You have to be challenged. You have to be unbalanced, and that's the way it works. And the thing is that what religion does. Religion is the thing that takes away our mental agility.
From what you described, which I understood totally because I'm a big Bruce Lee fan.
Okay.
I took a little Jeet Kune Do when I was younger. I took some
Right
Kung
on.
Fu. I boxed and stuff like that. Not to the level of me being any a black belt or anything, but I was always interested in martial arts.
Yeah.
But yeah, religion is the antithesis of the idea of martial arts. It's the antithesis. It's total opposite. Because when you were talking about being doing the same thing over and over again becomes ritualistic, which kind of is it's kind of defeats the purpose of training in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I love Bruce Lee so much, because it's like you got to keep the form loose and be like water, because you have to be able to adapt to any situation that comes towards you. And if you're rigid, that's going to work against you, depending on your opponent. So you have to be able to react in the moment, make decisions in the moment, and challenge yourself, like you were saying. You can't just the same thing doesn't work every time.
That's right.
In anything you do, in any discipline you take a part of, even if it's not martial arts, work, sports, politics, business, you have to be able to adapt and challenge yourself and overcome obstacles in different or new, or dare I say inventive new ways.
Yeah.
Because if you're too stagnant in your approach to anything, and especially life, that's where, to me, I think people get caught up, is that they get lazy. And hey, this works for me most of the time, so I'll just keep doing this anyway.
Right.
And I mean, depending on what we're talking about, it could, whatever. But I can't. I used to be like that when I was a lazy kid, but now I just can't. Like I was saying earlier, I just love thinking about stuff and figuring stuff out, and I love figuring out when I was wrong. I love doing that. Cause see, that's how I'm like scientists in a way. Because scientists, this is the part where I love about scientists. They have something that they want to prove, right?
Yep.
But in the same exercise, they'll not only work on proving that their theory is correct, they'll actually work on trying to see if their theory is wrong too.
Yeah, that's falsifiability.
Right. And guess what? Guess what religion doesn't do? Try to prove itself wrong.
Nope.
That's the problem with religion. It
religion
doesn't question itself.
Will not make itself falsifiable.
No, it doesn't question itself, because I don't care who you are. If you've ever existed on this planet, you are fallible. You do make mistakes. You are not perfect.
Yep.
Dude, you can read the Bible and just tell that these people weren't that smart.
Yeah.
You can just read. I mean, the silliest, by far, to me, this is just my opinion, the silliest story in the Bible that you should not believe as an adult, even if you're a Christian, you should not believe that this actually happened, is the Noah's Ark story.
Oh, absolutely.
That is so stupid. Really, that is so stupid. I mean, I get the Allen, but see, if you think about that, excuse me, I'm not even going to go the way you think I'm going to go.
Okay.
So you're going to tell me that this omniscient being who knows all, that it has happened and knows all that will happen, his only recourse to set things right is to kill everybody? Really?
Yeah.
Just on that alone, forget the fact that Noah was a drunk, he was 600 years old, and everybody else's boat, because they were fishermen back then. So what?
Right.
Their boats magically didn't work for some reason. So
Exactly.
it's just a dumb story. It's just a dumb story. It makes no sense. There's a lot of other ones like the Tower of Babel is dumb.
Yeah.
Jonah living in the fish. There's no air in the fish's belly. He would have died. He would have died
Sodom and
within
Gomorrah is another one.
Sodom and Gomorrah. I got a question for you. If you're traveling with Lot and his wife, speaking of Sodom and Gomorrah, and he told you, don't look back, but she looks back and she turns into a pillar of salt. My question is, how would you know she turned into a pillar of salt unless she was in front of you or you turned around and looked back?
Come on.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
It doesn't make any sense. And like my dad's favorite word is pragmatic. I'm
Yep.
very pragmatic. It's the practical solution is usually the best one.
Yep.
In a lot of situations, is it like when you talk about these different things that people believe, what's more practical, this or that? Well, that was more practical. You know what I'm saying?
That's probably it. Yeah.
That's it. You know what I'm saying? Normally, that's it. It's like when they talk, even when they take an approach to detectives, take an approach to solving a crime,
Mm-hmm.
the simplest solution is probably the right one. 99.9% of the time, the simplest solution will get you to where you need to go to arresting the right person or solving the crime.
Yep. That's exactly right.
Very rarely is it over convoluted. Like when all these conspiracy theories, like when they talk about the government perpetrating 9/11 against ourselves, you know how many things have to, you know how many moving parts that requires for that to be true?
Yeah.
That's bull crap. No, we don't have aliens locked away somewhere because as long as that story's been going on, somebody would have said something by now. I don't care what the threat is.
Yep.
There's people don't care. If they want to tell you, they're going to tell you.
Yep.
So I just look at things more practically. No, there aren't any aliens or whatever like we know it. There wasn't a mass conspiracy that we knew that they were going to do it and we just let them do it anyway. That's so heinous. And I'm like, I don't believe that because it doesn't make any sense. It's not practical. It makes no freaking sense.
Right.
So, I look at things and I go, yeah, okay, whatever. There's a lot of times I do. There's a lot of stuff that I don't really care about either, so I don't have an opinion one way or another because it doesn't have any effect on my life.
Yep.
So I don't really, I try not to, like Will Smith gets up, smacks Chris Rock in the face, and then gets down and proceeds to say, keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth. Yep. And he said it twice, and he was hot. Now, do I have a problem with what he did? Yes. Because you're not supposed to put your hands on people. That's assault and battery. Okay?
Yep.
That's what I have a problem with. But people ask me, so you probably don't like Will Smith now? I'm like, I still like Will Smith. And I'll be able to let's be practical here. Out of the two of us, I'm willing to bet that both of us have slapped someone before and have been slapped before. Yes or no?
Yep. Yep.
Okay. So in the big scheme of things, the only problem with what Will did as far as breaking the law by hitting someone, but outside of that, the only problem he did was he did it on camera and he did it in an auditorium full of thousands of people.
Yeah.
Now, if he had done that behind stage and was talking to Chris and him and Chris got in an argument and he slapped somebody, it would have just been some story we heard about what happened backstage. Right. And no one would care. But because Will had a lapse of judgment and did that in front of millions of people, the Academy had no choice.
Yeah. And what should have been his finest moment.
Right. You know, and not only that, the director, the first time a black director directed the Oscars, we got this shit. Yeah. But like I said, I'm not mad because shit happens. Right? It's how you deal with it afterwards. So now, a few months ago, maybe I would have thought differently about it. That's why, like I said, I like to think and I like to come to the correct perception of things that has happened. When I first saw it, I laughed because I thought it was part of the thing. Yeah. I mean, no one's ever gotten up and really assaulted somebody on live TV before. It's crazy. Yeah. So I thought it was a thing. And then when he sat down, and I was like, oh, wait a minute. That I can look at Will Smith's face and tell he's upset. I mean, he's a good actor, but that's I can see tears about to come in his face. Yeah. So I was like, okay, I I've witnessed people go, well, I'm not a Will Smith fan anymore. You know what? I'm going to go out on a limb and say you weren't a Will Smith fan to begin with. If that's all it takes for you not to be a fan anymore, you weren't a
Yeah.
fan. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm telling you right now, I'm a fan of R. Kelly's music. What I'm not a fan is him doing that to young women.
Yep.
I'm a fan of Bill Cosby's comedy. I'm not going to be like Bill Maher and say, well, I never thought Bill Cosby was funny in the first place. Okay, fine, whatever. I
Liar.
don't believe
Yeah.
him. He's lying. But the guy got to almost the top of NBC for a reason. Because he's talented, he's funny, he, whatever. Besides the other quirks that he has, other than assaulting women, people say he's abrasive and he's kind of, but there's a lot of people like that have attitudes because they're famous or whatever. But Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids was funny. It was a cool show back in the day.
Yeah.
The Cosby Show was the #1 rated show on TV for a reason, because it was funny.
Yep.
And it was a relatable show. And it showed black people, despite Mr. Cosby's faults, it did portray black folks in the most positive way we've ever seen on TV up till then.
Yep.
So I appreciated it for that. And people say, well, I can't stand to watch the show anymore. I said, really? Malcolm Jamal Warner, Keisha Knight Pulliam, Felicia Ayers Rashad. There's a lot of people on this show, Lisa Bonet, that are on this show who didn't hurt anybody. Nope. So you're punishing them because one guy? I said, you got to have perspective here. I can still look at Bill Cosby and not be disgusted because I'm looking at him do his job. I'm not watching him roofie some lady and then take advantage of her. That's disgusting, yes. But I have the ability to separate that. Now, I'm not going to be walking around, hey, Bill Cosby's the best thing since sliced bread. I mean, come on now.
Yeah.
But I'm still able to appreciate the things he did before we found out this very bad side of him. And my point in bringing this up is as opposed to atheism, or excuse me, people being atheists. I'm trying to get away from using that word. It's going to take a minute.
I know, me too, man.
It's going to take a minute, bro. But just because somebody's religious doesn't mean the other parts of them that are great are diminished.
Right.
I was like, I can't help it. As much as I tried to not like Steve Harvey, it's hard to not like the guy.
Yep.
He has a ton of charisma. The way I look at it now, it's just like, he just happens to be a guy that we just disagree about religion. So
yep,
that's fine. I can deal with that.
Yep.
I agree with him on the way he carries himself. The fact that he has like 75,000 jobs at once, I get it.
Yep.
The dude is hustling. He understands that in Hollywood, they can cut the lights off on a show that quick. I get it. He's smart in that way. And I understand that he actually came from nothing, and now he's a multimillionaire. So I respect that, because he actually had to bust his butt. And I don't know if you've seen this clip, but I actually saw the show when it happened, when those people who called in who actually helped him when he was struggling. This dude and his wife, and Steve came to tears. He was so happy to see these people because I've been looking for y'all forever.
Wow.
They helped him out. And I was like, that really showed a human side to this man. So I was like, you know what? I got to stop with this nonsense. I got to understand that people are people. Everybody feels the way they feel about something because of their experiences that maybe I'm not privy to.
Yep.
I need to give people the benefit of doubt as people before I judge them.
Yep. That's like I'm the same way. I'm like, I will kick a ism in the nuts, but I'll leave a ist alone.
Exactly. Because I have a lot of people in my family who are religious, and I love them. Yeah. I really, truly do. I just don't agree with them as far as Jesus Christ. I mean, the one thing that bothers me, why does he got to look like Kenny Loggins? What the hell? That's what bothers me. I mean, at least if the dude looked like, Wesley Snipes or something, I might have a little bit more, tolerance for it. But it's so obviously not true that it just turns me off, along with other religions. It's so obviously not true. It's just, it is what it is.
Yeah, here's the thing for me is that, believe what you want. just don't try to change anybody with it, or try to alter anybody's life with it, because I believe that if you believe in free will and all of that, um, and I'll also say this too, is that you don't really need to defend God. I gave this story once that I was pastoring in suburban Phoenix, and so my kids,
Phoenix.
yeah, and so my kids were in school, and other kids, some of them were kids of other pastors, and they were messing with my kids about me, right? And so my kids were like, okay, I'm gonna whip your ass because you're talking about my dad, kind of thing. And
Right.
I said, guys, I said, when people say things about me, just let it go. I said, because I'm a big boy and I can take it. I don't worry about what people say about me. Now, if one of these parents wants to come and say something to me to my face, then I'll deal with that. I said, I
Right.
put my big boy pants on every day.
Right.
But I told my kids, you don't need to defend me. Now, there was a lesson in that, because for everybody who's a Christian and think that they have to defend God, when you defend God, you basically reveal how powerless you think he really is.
Exactly. Exactly. If God had a problem with me being an atheist, he would have said something to me by now.
Yep.
And
Exactly.
and I find that just evangelicals, evangelicals, I have a problem with,
Yeah.
because it seems to me that their job is to
To proselytize. I mean,
that, and also they condemn everything which is not Christian, and
mhm,
they actually think that everyone should be a Christian,
yeah.
and that's problematic because obviously there are billions of other people who practice other religions across the whole planet, not just the United States.
Yeah.
So if to me, if you don't understand reality and what the reality of the situation is, you're going to come off silly because you're saying things that are obviously never going to happen. And so it's I'm trying to make sure I don't say anything that would be construed as any kind of bigotry, because I'm not a bigot at all.
Yeah.
But evangelists seem to be just, they seem to side with a lot that which puts other people down.
Yeah.
Like they really are fans of Trump. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
They're fans of people like him. What's that dude from Kentucky, Mitch McConnell?
Yeah.
You know,
But you know what? Aaron and I said that we are gonna take this on at one point, because I really believe that when it comes to Christianity, I
hmm
believe that there's only one intellectually honest flavor of Christianity, and
which is
and
that?
and and which and that's Calvinism. I think
I
Calvinism
don't know
is.
enough about Calvinism to have an opinion on that. I'll have to look that up.
Yeah, well, I mean, here's the thing that, or reform theology is another way of putting it. That, for people that don't like to be called Calvinism, but basically, the reform theologians slash Calvinists believe in predestination. In other words, some people are born to go to heaven, and some people are born to go to hell, and there's nothing you can do about that, because God makes that decision by sovereign election, and that's all there is to it. So the best that you can do is be the best that you could be, follow the law, and hope the best that you hit a 7 on Judgment Day,
You
right?
know what? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, no, but that's the thing. And you have like progressive theology and inclusionism and universalism. They say, oh, well, God just loves everybody, and everybody's included, just like everybody was in sin because of Adam. Jesus fixed everybody, and all of this is cool until you call them on the carpet and ask them to actually live what it is they've been teaching. And when
Right.
that happens, you find out all the whole sweater comes unraveled because they really don't believe that shit. They say it because it happens to be a nicer flavor, a nicer sounding flavor of Christianity, and it gets people in, right? But
Right.
but the reality is, like when George Floyd was murdered, that was sort of like the last straw for me in terms of dealing with Christians and matters of social justice and race relations, because
Right.
I'm like, okay, here's your opportunity, Christians, to speak up and speak out and talk about this police brutality for the evil it is. And here's the thing I said: you don't have to march, you don't have to say Black Lives Matter. All you have to do is just say that shit wasn't cool, that wasn't right.
Yeah. I mean,
That's and they couldn't even do that. So I'm like, okay, all of you progressive Christians, and let me say this, I'm because I pick on my friend Keith Giles a lot. And Keith is one of the most wonderful people, one of the most wonderful human beings walking the planet. He's a Christian author. He's written many books. He was my co-host, or I was a co-host with him on the Heretic Happy Hour podcast for 2 years. This guy is the shit. I love him. But Keith wrote a book recently called Sola Mysterium, and the blowback from that book has been phenomenal. And the people who are giving him the blowback are who? Progressive Christians, not the evangelicals. The evangelicals don't give a fuck about what Keith writes. It's not the Reformed theologians. They don't give a fuck about what Keith writes. But the progressives, the ones that have been teaching this love and light Christianity, this Jesus loves everybody crowd. And when Keith says, yeah, okay, Jesus actually does love everyone, and here's why. And when he begins to articulate that, the people who shit on him are progressive Christians. It isn't the hardliners. It isn't the fundamentalists. It isn't any of those. And so what I said, what I've been saying, and I'm on the record as saying this, that the most disingenuous, most intellectually dishonest, and most intellectually lazy Christians are progressive / grace Christians. Now, I'm on the record as saying that.
Okay.
So
Well,
so that's my thing. So when you talk about the evangelicals, well, I don't like the fact that they're Trump supporters, but there's a certain intellectual honesty.
yeah,
Well,
that is true.
let me say not intellectual honesty, but let's say some consistency.
Yeah, they're consistent. Yeah,
That's a
they're
better
consistent.
word.
Yeah, they're consistent.
But it's like the progressive Christians / grace movement, totally disingenuous, totally
Wow.
hypocritical. And because I was a grace preacher when I left Christianity, I was like, I said, I don't want my name being mentioned in the same breath as yours. That's how deep it
that's how
was.
that's how fed up you were, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I was like, listen, you talk about Will Smith, I was in Will Smith mode. That's that's where I was.
You know what? When you mentioned Calvinism, because I'm not familiar with that, be
Yep.
honest, just not. That kind of makes sense. I mean, it doesn't make sense, but that makes more sense, seeing as how if God is actually outside of existence,
Yeah.
that
Well,
would make sense. It's like, I already know what's going to happen, so no matter what you do,
yeah.
you're going to hell anyway.
Right. Here's the thing: the Calvinists don't go through this elaborate game of connect the dots.
Right.
It is what it is. It's very flat. It's very linear. And even though I vehemently disagree with its
Oh yeah,
premises,
yeah. It's not necessarily true, but
yeah,
yeah,
but it's like they're at least they're intellectually honest, even if they're
yeah,
not
yeah.
empirically honest. But let's go through. Let's check out some of the comments real quick,
Oh sure.
and then I'll put the links to the show in case anybody wants to join in. So if you guys love Jimmy and want to come on and say, hey Jimmy, I think you're awesome, and or say something like, hey Jimmy, you should have his own show. We can make that happen too. Or if you want to come on and say, man, that Jimmy's a dick, and Derrick, you're a bigger dick for even having him on. Hey, come on in and speak your piece.
It's hilarious. It's
Speak your
hilarious.
piece.
It's hilarious.
But Ben Urban, I love Ben. Ben
I like Ben too. Yeah, I like Ben too.
he's an amazing guy. He says, "Hey, you classy dudes." And then John Philip Cunningham, he had, this is a long statement. I'm going to try to read it and try not to mess it up. But he said, I learned of the Bayesian theorem of faith and belief, which is expressed in a mathematical equation with an explanation. All right. Uh, it is the extension of the rules and laws of logic, rational reasoning, and thought. This includes the laws of contradiction and non-contradiction. Then there is, does this belief harm? Religions use the emotional attachment to their dogma, narcissistic, misogynistic psychosis. History shows what making others convert does not end well, but humanity does. That's a mouthful, John. But here's the thing. I've heard of people that try to mathematically model God, but it fails on the tangibility scale, the measurability scale, and the repeatability scale. Because I've yet to see anybody take anything faith related and either make it tangible with our senses, measurable in any metric, and repeatable in any way.
It's not real. That's
No.
I know I'm very simplistic when I say that, but when it comes to these things, they're just not real. And they're real ideas and real thoughts, and these are real religions. But that which they talk about that supposedly has happened or will happen or is happening, it's never been demonstrated. It's like people
No.
ask me why I'm an atheist. I take the same approach as what is his name? He said that. But anyway, the burden of proof lies on religion.
Yep.
Religion has failed to meet the burden of proof. That's why I'm still an atheist. Period.
Yep.
No one has proven that their God or gods are real. I have no point, and I tell people all the time, being an atheist is the default position. No
Right.
one is religious until they're taught to be.
That's right.
Told they have to be. So that's just how I take. I take a very hardline stance on that. I tell people all the time, I don't want to have a debate or anything about God or anything, because it all comes down to this: if you have solid proof that is undeniable, that can be repeated, that can be demonstrated, I want to hear that. I don't want to hear you telling me what's in your Bible, because that's like trying to define a word with a word. You still haven't defined the word.
Right.
So until you give me demonstrable proof that what is going on in your particular scripture or religion is true, I'm not interested. And it's not not that I'm being mean, but it's just a waste of time.
Everybody's an atheist to some degree, because they believe in their God and they discount every other one. So
right,
my
I've
thing
said that
is,
a million times.
Yep. So I'm like, okay, you want to say that your God is real and Zeus is not real, the Zoroaster is not real, that Horus is not real, that the Thor is not real. Okay, so great. So let's take the same logic that you use to discount those gods, and let's apply them to yours.
Mm-hmm.
And if your God stands up, against the same logic that you use to shoot down the other ones, then great. Maybe we have something to talk about, but you can't, and so we don't.
You know what I used to do to piss off a lot of people who wanted to argue with me?
What's that?
It's like, I said, you want to know the truth? And they'll be like, yeah, what's the truth? I'm 100% atheist. You're 99% atheist. I go, I'm not atheist. I go, yeah, you are.
Yeah.
The 99% of all the other religions that exist, you don't believe in them. The only difference between me and you is that 1%. And they would get so hot, but they couldn't argue because it's true.
Yep.
It's like, you don't believe in Buddha and Thor and Zeus and all that.
Yep.
But you believe in your Christian God, or you believe in your Muslim Allah, or you believe in Yahweh. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
It's funny to me. It's just so funny to
me. So John Philip Cunningham also says, after life is death, life after death are those who are still alive. And that's basically it. I would say that, hey, lots of things happen after you die. They just don't fucking involve you.
Exactly. It's none of your business. You ain't here.
Yep. Flying Man Disciple says, supernatural could only be one layer. What if there's a mega or ultra natural? You know what? I think that anything until it's understood can be construed as supernatural. Once it's understood, it ceases to be supernatural. And so, in that regard, I have a lot of respect for like mystics and metaphysicians, because what they do is they try to assign some level of tangibility, measurability, and repeatability to these things. And so, what things can happen according to those pillars? And so I have some respect for people like that, but it's like everything is supernatural. It's like when James Clerk Maxwell, the physicist, had this theory that he believed that if you had uh, individual particles on either side of a vacuum, that that there was a way to basically apply heat to one side to make the particles move to the other side faster. And so Maxwell coined a phrase. He said is a demon that basically controlled the flow of these particles from one side to the other. And it's literally called Maxwell's demon to this day. Well,
Really?
Maxwell's demon has been falsified. We know that it's not true, but that's an example of how how things are until you understand them. Robert Oppenheimer, the father of the atomic bomb, said that that he believed that the splitting of the atom was essentially moving the hand of God. But now we understand things about atomic fission and fusion, and we know that there's nothing supernatural to it. It's just an electrochemical process, right? So we understand that. So to your question there, flying man disciple. What if there's a mega or ultra natural layer? I would say probably not. I would say that there's certainly a lot that we don't understand about quantum physics, about particle physics, about unified field theory, about string theory. It's a lot of things that we know. There's more that we don't know than what we know.
Yeah, quantum
So
physics is a trip.
it is.
Yeah, if you wanna twist your brain and turn it inside out, read a quantum physics book. That'll freak you out.
Something that was the beginning. That was the beginning of the end of religion for me. Was
Oh, was
quantum
quantum
physics.
physics? Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. It's crazy. It's super
and
crazy.
and and I'm mad because I was a pretty bright kid, but I shied away from things like physics and advanced mathematics because I was a little lazy, you know.
Right.
But now I look back on it and I'm trying to play catch up on physics now because I didn't pay attention to it then. But when like for example in particle physics or in quantum physics, just the mere observation of a quantum phenomena or quantum uh, uh, particle or wave, just the mere fact of observation changes the state or the outcome of that particular wave or particle. And so when you look at something, the screen is solid matter as we perceive it, but we're observing it, so we're actually changing it by our observation. But we can't perceive that change at this level, but at the quantum level, it's immense. That change is immense. So so what I was saying is that, like, okay, things that we can't see, but we can quantify them. A lot of what we would call spiritual or metaphysical
Hmm.
or mystical is really, is quantum physics, right? So that was the thing. I said, okay, so now I have something. I have some tangibility, some measurability, and repeatability that I can assign to some things.
I thought that was the craziest part of quantum physics was the fact that you can't observe something without changing it. So
Exactly.
that is so crazy. Me just looking at it. Go, yeah, because you're
Yep.
affecting it on a quantum level. I'm going, okay, this is too much for me. My brain's about to explode. I'm just like, I
Well,
don't even want to try to understand that.
and the quantum physics physicists now are trying to the holy grail is this unified field theory, right?
Yeah, yeah, I heard of that.
Because the standard model models everything that we understand about matter at a quantum level except gravity. Gravity, we don't, we understand gravity and we're able to model gravity, but it doesn't fit into the standard model, right?
Right,
And they came up with this placeholder called the graviton, which is supposed to be a particle that influences gravity, but that's purely hypothetical. It's not even really good theory yet. But then you have like string theory that tries to explain that, and within the realm of string theory, gravity is easily modeled. The problem is that string theory is totally theoretical. We've
right.
never actually observed a string or anything like that. We just know that the math works, right?
That
Um,
reminds me of Big Bang Theory when Leonard goes, "I prefer my he goes, I know you doing string theory, but I prefer my uh, 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 something loopy." He goes, he prefers it loopy. So I was like, okay, that's kind of funny.
So Ben Urban says, as a curious agnostic, I retain some head space, heart space for a potentially transcendent entity, i.e., a dogma-free God of sorts. I reject all systematically theological depictions of divinity. That's a mouthful, Ben. And here's the thing: I consider myself as an agnostic atheist. In other words, I don't claim to say that there is no God. I will say that there is no God of the Bible. That much I will say, and I'll say that with certainty.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
bullshit.
but as far as like, you can make the case for a creator, or you can make the case for not a creator. But I know, like, as I was moving away from religion, I was into this love thing, and I said, okay, love is the highest expression of energy of humanity, and love is what makes us divine. But the more I look at it, I'm like, okay, there's a lot in the universe that can't be modeled in love, because 99.99999% of the universe wants to kill us, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah, that's what Mike. Yeah, Neil deGrasse Tyson said, "How could this universe be made for us when most of it's trying to kill us?"
yeah, I mean,
Oh Lord.
it's like cosmic rays, man. Just,
Yeah, exactly. It's so
you
hostile out there.
if you just hang out in space, like spacewalks, when they do spacewalks in the space station, the ISS, they
Hmm.
limit the amount of time that they can be out there, because cosmic rays, given a long enough timeline, they'll kill you, right?
Yep. Yep.
So, you know, I don't believe in this higher love anymore. I just don't see it.
Hmm.
Not to say that it doesn't exist, and I won't say with absolute certainty that there isn't a higher power. Uh,
Right.
but what I do think, I believe the energy itself is conscious, and the reason I believe that is that anything that's been around long enough, I believe, begins to kind of figure out what it wants to be or what it wants to do. And so I believe that the earth as a entity is conscious, that it's made of conscious energy, and that the rocks have energy, that lava and plants and animals, that all of the there's energy in all of that, and this energy has existed for billions and billions of years. And so what happens, the law of conservation says the energy is neither created nor destroyed. So what happens, we were energy before we came into this human space, and we'll be energy after we leave. So what will our energy aggregate into next? I don't know. What is the overarching governance of our energy? That overarching governance is something that we don't know, but it's energy that will decide what the next state of that energy will be.
I like to say, because when people talk about, after you die and all that kind of thing, I think we always exist. I just think, and this, I could be right or wrong, but this is just what makes sense to me. We're just on this being conscious, I think, is a unique experience for energy.
Yep.
And so I don't
Good
think,
point.
although I think we possibly do exist all the time. We're not conscious, but only that long.
Right.
And that's why it's so special, is because we're conscious. It's not because any other reason. It's just because this is a unique thing within our universe. Because although we've only searched what, less than 1% of our known universe,
Mm-hmm.
and we haven't found life anywhere else, maybe that's the way it's supposed to happen. I don't know. I don't have all the answers. I have no idea. But to me, it makes sense. It's like, well, if you, I, our limited way that we think about this, very limited. We've always existed. We're just conscious now.
Right.
Because to me, it doesn't make sense that I exist, but then not exist, and then didn't exist, but now I exist, and then I'm not going to exist again. It's like it's. I think it's got to be more complicated than that, because the universe is more complicated than that. I think we're trapped by our limited amount, our limited ability to understand the universe. So I think we oversimplify some things. Are you okay? You kind of flipped on me, bro.
Yeah. You froze on me, and then we flipped screens here.
Oh, wow, that was weird. I was like, what
Yeah.
the hell did I? I said, did I just screw up the universe?
No, no. But listen, let's go. I want you to go ahead and tell people how they can connect with you, or get in touch with you,
Oh,
because
sure.
listen, y'all connect with Jimmie, because this guy he's the shit. I mean, I've known this guy less than 6 months, but he's one of my favorite people online. So
Thank you.
make
Thank
sure
you.
you guys connect with him. So Jimmie,
Yeah,
take it away.
yeah. I'm at my Instagram. Let me pull it up real quick, because I can't. I never remember what my handle is on there, because my handle on here is the underscore real underscore Jimmie underscore Ligon. That's how you find me on Instagram. Facebook, simply my name, Jimmie Ligon. You'll see my profile picture is me and my girlfriend. And I don't do Twitter. I got rid of my Twitter actually before Elon Musk took over. I didn't get a lot of engagement on Twitter, so I just left it by the wayside. It wasn't very useful to me. It's even less useful now. So you can reach me there, on Instagram or on Facebook. And he mentioned earlier that maybe I should have my own. That's not the first time I heard that I should have my own show. Maybe I'll talk to Derrick Day about how to do that. I'm actually on YouTube too, but I'm not. I don't have anything going on YouTube right now. So, but I am on YouTube. It's just my name, Jimmie Ligon, again. There's nothing fake about me.
Yeah.
So, I'm on those 3 platforms, and you can reach me on any of those. Probably the best place to reach me is to send me a message on Facebook. Try to friend me up on Facebook, or Instagram is another one that I like. I like Instagram a lot. So, yeah, those 2 are the best places to reach me at.
Right on. Well, Jimmie, I really appreciate you taking the time out to talk with us, and share what's on your mind, and do this. There's been some big thought here, and I really
Yeah,
appreciate it.
I appreciate you having me on, brother. It's like I've been watching you and stuff, and I follow your little Bible thing. I love that, BUYBULL. I love that.
Yeah.
I love your little Bible bullshit for beginners and all that
Yeah,
kind of stuff.
I had to stop that.
Entertaining.
My kids were giving me some grief about that.
Oh, well,
Yeah,
that.
and they were like, Dad, you're a smart guy, but you really go a little hard there,
I thought it
So
was funny, but I
yeah,
got it. But anyway, I'm just saying I appreciate the fact that we were able to connect on a level, even though we know, and we haven't brought it up, and I'm not going to. But there's one area that I know that we disagree on, and I know you've seen my post. You never responded to it, but I know you know what I'm talking about.
no, go ahead. I mean, because I think I vaguely remember, but it's like, dude, I sift through so much on a daily basis.
It's when we talk about the millionaires and billionaires.
Oh yeah,
There's a little difference that we have, but it's not major. It's
no.
just something that we disagree with. That's all.
No, and here's the thing. I'll say this about that, right? Just because I wasn't really ditching your question, but the thing is that I know a lot of wealthy people. I've been really, I can actually say I know two billionaires personally, two personally,
Right.
and so, uh, I understand, and one of the two actually, he kind of came up from, I don't want to say humble beginnings, but he didn't inherit it. The second one, he inherited a whole empire from his
Right.
dad.
Right.
So the thing is that I really think that that wealth is a public trust, and I think that
In a
that
way, yeah.
yeah, and that that if you have the ability to make that kind of loot, I think that there's a certain responsibility. It's the whole Uncle Ben philosophy of thing.
Yeah.
From with great power comes great responsibility.
Responsibility. I agree with that. But
Yeah.
I think a lot of people address the symptom and not the problem. To me, the problem with billionaires, especially not paying their fair share of taxes, is I look at it this way. If I had $1 million, okay, and I
Uh-huh.
needed to be taxed on it, and the law is that I only have to pay $1,000 in taxes. I'm going to be honest and say I'm not going to be mad at that.
Okay.
But if people actually voted and paid attention to this stuff, when Ronald Reagan did away with that, what was it? How much tax did they pay? Like millionaires were paying
Well,
like,
the top tax bracket was like 75%.
yeah, they were paying a lot of money back because they were
Yeah.
supposed to. He done away with that. If people paid enough attention and stopped paying all these other issues they throw out, abortion and blah, 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 this and blah, 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 that, to me, if the law said, okay, fine, you're going to pay 50% or 70%, it is what it is. So that's just the way that's just the way I look at it. I
Yep.
can't be mad at the billionaire it's themselves. I'm mad at the fact that people are not taking this seriously and taking these people to task and saying, look, we need to put these laws back into place so we can make an even playing field for everyone else because this isn't fair.
Yeah.
I
I,
agree with it's not fair, but I don't agree with necessarily attacking billionaires. I agree with attacking tax legislature.
mhm.
100%.
Here's the thing that, and this was my thought on this. It isn't so much the billionaires themselves.
Right.
It's like you have to ask yourself realistically, when do I have enough? At what point, in other words, it gets to be kind of a hoarding mentality, and that's the part of it that I find problematic because I don't have a problem with being wealthy. I like to think that I would say that I'm probably a 95th percentile earner. You
Right,
know,
because you're over six figures, right?
yeah, I'm well north of that.
Okay, so
So
when you look at that, six-figure earners,
yeah.
just period, individuals,
Mhm.
that's top 79% right there, because only 21% of the population makes $100,000 or more
Mhm.
per year.
Yep.
So you're already at an advantageous situation when you reach that. But I see what you're saying. You don't make so much money that it's ridiculous. I
Right.
understand what you're saying. I understand
Yeah.
what you're saying.
Yep. So
So
that was it. I mean, but basically we're on the same page, and I
right.
think we
I think
kind of
it's semantics more than anything else. That's
it
all it
is,
is, semantics.
and
That's why I
and
said it was minor.
that would be a
Nothing
subject for
more.
another show because
Oh yeah, definitely.
I do have some strong opinions about Tefra and its long range consequences
Okay.
because before that the tax structure the tax base was structured toward the middle and little guy, and
Right.
after that it changed.
Well, yeah,
And
because everyone knows the middle class has shrunk over
yep,
the last 20 years.
yep,
Definitely, you can't even argue that.
yep. But once
Yeah,
again,
I need to stop because we could talk all night because we
I
just
know,
vibe.
man, and this has been a great conversation.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate you coming on, and I'm gonna have you back again because, like I said, this was a great convo. I loved it.
Any other shows that you feel that I would be a positive influence on, or my perception would help out on the show, just let me know, like
I,
you did today. And I'll, if I don't have anything else going on, I'll definitely join you guys. I like you guys. I like what you guys are doing. I really do.
hey, and like I said, man, stay tuned because one of the things that I'm doing now is I'm trying to identify and cultivate talent.
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate the fact that you think I have talent.
Yeah,
Another friend of mine who happens to be a Christian thinks I should have started a YouTube channel, but I'm kind of backing off for right now. I just want to get my ducks in a row and figure out exactly what I want to do. And I actually would love to pick your brain and talk to you more about that off the air. So
yeah,
that would be awesome.
and
That
we
would be
could do
awesome.
that.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
all right, Jimmy, thanks again, man, for coming on. And for everybody that's watching, thank you for attending our TED Talk.
It's funny.
Peace
You
and
guys have a
hair.
good night. Peace, everybody. I love everybody.